News in Motion.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. I just love seeing people in the green room, like dancing. Like, y'all, Pastor Holmes was jamming back there in that green room. That music is something, isn't it, Adrian? I'm still loving it, loving it, loving it, loving it. Good morning to all of you. Deborah Johnson, good morning to you. Yes, it's a good day. Marion Jackson, good morning to you. Sardinia, good morning to you. Robert Holman, Grand Rising, hear the Lord and follow his instructions. I love that. Thank you for adding into that, Mr. Holmes. Adrian, good morning to you. And Jackie, good morning to you. Good morning to you. Today, we will have our closing arguments going into this 2024 election. We know that many people have already voted. The last count that I checked this morning is more than 56 million people across the United States have already cast ballots in this election. So standing ovation to all of you that have done so. We're excited about it. I have a question to you all this morning. Don't forget, this is Town Hall Thursday. It's our closing arguments, but it's also Town Hall Thursday. So please, please, please answer this question. And by the way, good morning to everyone on our audio podcast, to all of our audio podcast listeners. If this is your first time joining in, you're probably like, well, who are you? My name is Gail Dudley. We've been at this since June 2020, and we're bringing it to this year's close, coming soon. As soon as the election has been called, we will be stepping aside until January 2025. And then, of course, if anything pops off during those days we're away, if we're able to jump on to talk about it, we will do that. So make sure you set your alerts. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube. That's youtube.com/Gail Dudley. Hit that subscribe button. Please do that. Please subscribe. And then turn on your alert. So whenever I pop on, you will get the alert that I am on News in Motion. I see you, Kim Edmondson, coming in here. So y'all, please do me a favor. Subscribe, hit that subscribe button. That makes a big difference. And then hit that alert button as well. So here's my question this morning. Here's my question. Last week I asked you what was you most looking forward to by the end of this election. Today I'm asking you, how are you preparing for Election Day? Even if you've already voted, I want you to go beyond casting a ballot. How are you preparing for Election Day? I'll start as soon as I turn off of News in Motion on Tuesday, November the 5th. I'm going to go to several locations just to see if anybody needs anything. What's up, Latrice Jones? And then after I wrap that up, I think I want to be done by about 3 p.m. on November the 5th. I'm going to come home. I'm going to get my blanket. I hope it's cold outside. Not cold to where people won't come to vote, but like, I want it to be about maybe 50s. I'm going to get my blanket. I'm going to have me some chili. I'm going to sit and watch the returns as much as I can. And then my prayer is that I can sleep peacefully on the night of November the 5th. November the 6th, of course, I'll do News in Motion to give the election results. Hopefully it will not be a contested election on November the 6th. And then after we sign off on November the 6th, I'm going to chill the entire day and watch movies. On November the 7th, we'll come back right here on News in Motion, have some conversation, not a town hall gathering, but more of a celebration. That's my hope. That's my hope. And then when we sign off, then I'm going to say I'll see you all in January. Now, if it doesn't go that smoothly, ask me next week how I'm going to do this. But that's my plan. That's my plan. Deborah says, I will be doing extra meditation and voting with my family. I will be praying throughout the day. I see that. Hey, what's up, Fred Jones? He said, the governor is coming to my job for a tour on Election Day. Okay. I like that. I actually like that a lot. So please keep sharing with us. Like, what are your plans? What are you going to do? How are you going to handle the day? So yeah, I want to hear from you. So please, even as I continue on this morning before I bring in Pastor Derrick Holmes, please keep putting in there, what are you going to do? How are you preparing for Election Day? How are you preparing for election day and the days after? Then I'll also be preparing getting my home ready. So for the first time since the pandemic, everybody in my family is coming to my house. And families have grown. So I'm sitting there like, I wasn't counting that many, but we'll figure it out. So I'm going to be preparing for that too. So I'm really excited about that we're back to some normalcy when it comes to Thanksgiving. All right, attention Virginia voters. The question with color of change. I don't know if Virgie's on here or not, but have you been removed from the voter registration rolls? And they're saying this is what you need to do. So please follow along with this. And if anybody can grab this information and put it in the chat, that would be great. Virginia voters, this happened yesterday. The Supreme Court allowed Virginia to remove about 1,600 people from the voter rolls. And if you've been wrongly purged from the voter registration, you can re-register at the polls under the same day registration and still cast your ballot. So Virginia, if you have been purged, you can re-register at the polls under the same day registration and still cast your ballot. So again, the Supreme Court allowed Virginia to continue to purge over 1,600 voter rolls. Now, voters flagged as potentially ineligible are typically notified by mail and given 2 weeks to confirm their citizenship. We don't have time for that now. So now you have to take action. And if you feel that if you've already early voted and feel that maybe you have been purged, you must go to the Virginia Secretary of State's office and check your status. If you know that you are legal and that you have all the documentation, I know this is more work for you. I know, but at this moment, this is called revenge voting. So if you've been illegally purged, okay, or wrongfully purged, then you got to get out of your feelings, get dressed, go back to the polls, wherever you're going, with all of your documentation. And if you need to, take somebody with you. There's Legal Aid Society. There are advocates out there. Take somebody with you and re-register and vote. Okay, you can do that. You can do it under the same day in Virginia. Now, Republicans officials said they may not be U.S. citizens. So they just started purging people. So you're guessing? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So they have temporarily allowed this voter removal program to continue in Virginia after the federal judge blocked the initiative last week. So the federal judge said, you can't do this. Of course, Republicans took it to the Supreme Court. I didn't think y'all was in session right now, but y'all sure did find a way to talk about this. And then you said this stands. So there's an emergency stay. They're hoping that will come. So Governor Glenn Youngkin signed an order back in August to remove these people. Then the federal judge ruled you're violating the federal law prohibiting states from doing A, B, C, D. So then the Supreme Court stepped in. So again, I shouldn't call it revenge voting, but that's what I'm calling it. Check. If you're not there, grab all your documentation, take somebody with you, show up, re-register, and vote. Okay? Because they're saying you may. I don't get this. They're trying so hard to stop us from voting. Let's see. Rosanna Bivens, what's up? Mary Jackson says, I'll be working, praying, and relaxing. Adrian says, remaining, hoping, and keeping my mental peace. Hello, somebody. Heather says, praying up to the election. After a day of working the polls, I know you're working the polls. Thank you for that. November the 6th, I'm taking a mental health day off work, and you should. What's up, Danita? Kim Edmondson says, I'll be working the polls on election day. Come home and chill. Probably watching movies, checking the outcome on Wednesday. Girl, you can hold your peace until Wednesday. Okay, good luck. Marion, I'll just keep blowing up your phone. How about that? Marion Jackson says, Virginia voters re-register at the polls and vote the same day, under the same day. Thank you for grabbing that, Marion. Unconstitutional, maybe? Yep, Adrian. Jackie said, did you see the video of the big belligerent white man showed up to vote where there were only women working the polls? They tried to enforce the rules. He had a cap and went against the rules. I have not seen that. I heard about it. Listen, you're not supposed to wear paraphernalia because those are considered government government official office. So please respect that. Take off your badges and everything. If you run into this, and I know some people are dealing with this now, go to security. Don't you try to do it. Don't you try to do it. Go get your security. There's security. There's even undercover security in these places. Police officers, sheriffs, and so forth. So go there. Thanks for sharing that, Jackie. Judy Neal, good morning to you. We'll be praying for all poll workers and keeping positive thoughts for a successful election outcome. There you go. There you go. Thank y'all. Thank y'all for joining. All right, y'all. Uber vouchers. Uber vouchers. I think this is an amazing idea. This kicked off at the Black Men's Summit. And so Georgia, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, those three places, along with other places, but they're really highlighting Georgia, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. They have partnered with Vote to Live. Again, that's called Vote to Live, to make sure you get to the polling locations with Uber vouchers to the polls. So if you have an Uber app, if you don't and you need a ride, download the Uber app. And then you can also go, and I think I have this, but if y'all can put this in the chat, that would be great as well. But I think I have it. Boom, I do. Rides to vote, that's plural.com. Rise2vote.com. You can go there, get your voucher. You got to have the Uber app. Hit that Uber app. Put your voucher number in there. They will pick you up, take you to the polls, and bring you back. Okay? So if you don't have any other way to get there, do this, y'all. Y'all, listen. They're begging y'all. They got a lot of money in this. So do this. They have partnered with Uber. So rise2vote.com. Y'all, come on. We're giving you all the resources we can possibly give you. So please do not ignore that one either. Okay, so rise2vote.com. You can do that today. Just do it today if you know you need a ride, if no one's helping you. And it's Uber beyond Georgia, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina. But a lot of people are saying in those three states, which are three of the battleground states, three of the seven, that there's a lack of transportation. And that came out of the Black Men's Summit. There's a lack of transportation, which leads me to poll workers. And Pastor Derrick Holmes and I was talking about this in the green room. There are still a need. There's still a need. There's still a need. So now they're calling on veterans. They're saying veterans come out and vote. So let me give you some of this information here before I bring on Pastor Derrick Holmes. And their headline reads, there's an election poll worker shortage, but veterans can help. So you may be saying, even in Ohio, there's still a need. This morning, because I went to go look this morning, the headline right here in Franklin County Board of Elections is saying they still need poll workers. Now, it may not be in your district. See, they're getting very cute with this. And Derrick and I are going to talk about this when he comes on in a few moments. So now, first, as long as you live in the state, you can do this. Then they changed it in 2020. Well, you got to live in the county. Now they're like, you got to live in the district. This is getting out of hand because this is a way to suppress the votes. So just go, if you have time, just go complete it. And see where you're needed. They're asking like, how do I qualify? Be a registered Franklin County voter, attend an interviewing training session. Although they're kind of skipping that a little bit. You can do everything online. You can do the training online, everything. Have reliable transportation. Use that Uber voucher, okay, to get there. Have never been convicted of a felony. Be willing to work approximately 15 hours on election day. Okay. So all the information is there. Election day is $133.72. It's a little stipend. The training is $80. So add that to the $133.72. If you are part of the setup, that's another $55. If you set up the night before, early that morning, all the information is there. So that's Franklin County. But if you go to dav.org, D as in David, A as in Apple, V as in Victor.org. Veterans, you can go here and sign up to be a poll worker. They're needed. Georgia needs them. badly. And we know why Georgia's having a hard time with that, but Georgia needs them badly. The Pew Research, and we'll have Pastor Holmes on in a few moments, the Pew Research Center, they're giving key facts. They're telling you where poll workers are needed, how they are temporarily recruiting them, how they're putting them on a fast track. They're talking about the election officials, the poll watchers. There's poll watchers as well that are needed. So listen, DC, that's the District of Columbia. They need you as poll workers. Colorado, you're needed. Nevada, you're needed. New York, Maryland, and Minnesota, you are needed. Georgia, you are needed. Iowa, you are needed. Delaware, Alaska, you are needed as poll workers. And we're in our 9th hour, y'all, and there's poll workers are still needed. So you can check that out as well. And my last thing, CNN did a great report on this on yesterday. They're saying there's this shortage. They're letting people know. They're saying in North Carolina, in the major metropolitan areas, they are fully staffed with about 3,000 workers trained for this year, which is an increase from 2020. But the outlying area, the rural areas, are without a full setup to open up on election day. They give other information as well. So with that, I'm going to bring on Pastor Derrick Holmes so he can talk a little bit more about these poll workers. Good morning to you. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Peace. Good morning. Good morning. Great to see you again.
Great to see you. So help me out. I gave the layout as we talked about in the green room. What do you suggest? Give us the 411 on poll workers.
So again, always a pleasure to be here and share with you all. Great to see everybody in the chat and love the continued work that you're doing.
Thank you.
So listen, I think when we talk about the poll worker situation, the poll worker crisis, in a lot of ways, it's important to understand context, that there's a general dispassion around participation in election that's leading to some of that. And we just have to hold space for that. Some people are so frustrated, irritated with all the politics and everything else to where they just don't want to participate. And that's part of the reason why there's a decrease in workers in the poll. And the way that we have to respond to that is by simply participating, because there are two things that happen when we participate. One, we have people that are working at the polls, which means more people are able to vote, right? But also there's a level of accountability as well, because as you mentioned, voter suppression is real, right? Voter suppression is real, and that they'll do anything that they can to keep us polls and keep activating the vote, anything to keep things in place. So, but we just have to own the fact that, again, we're coming out of the longest election cycle in American history. And the truth is, people are tired, right? Hashtag eyes tired. Listen, eyes tired. I've been listening to all this stuff and listening to people back and forth. We had someone say they were running for re-election, then stop in the middle. Remember that feeling that we had? Like we didn't really want to vote for one person, but we weren't in love with the other person that was on the ticket as a major party candidate as well. Then all of a sudden, now energy comes into the thing, and now there's the potential and promise of making history and all of that. That represents a certain emotional thing that happens among us. And the way that is out is that we have less poll workers, and we have to be able to strengthen ourselves and work up enough courage. We're almost there, and we need people who can to be involved. And I think that's how we navigate it.
Yeah, because I looked at the list. Like even yesterday, we were talking about poll workers right here on News in Motion. So like Delaware County in Ohio stacked. I'm not for sure where Rosanna Bibbins, her county, but they were saying it was full. But and I think it was Franklin County. When I go to Franklin County, okay, they're full, but some of the outlining areas are not. So there's not even clarity. Like, where exactly do you need them? So then that we can go and get those individual people, because we may know people in that area, or let people in the central area to just go. Why are you saying we can't go because we're not in that district? Like, what is happening here?
There's a general politrick. I love that someone said it because I think about it that way. There's a general politrick, around misinformation that we have to be able to address. And I'll give you an example of what I'm saying. Most people, particularly the community that I'm most concerned about, the Black community, that Souls to the Polls is actually a real thing, right? That
I got
Sunday
my shirt
before,
on.
right, I love that, by the way, right? We know in our community that's like an actual thing. As the pastor of a long-standing church with a deep commitment to social justice, we very much were making up our minds to go to the polls this coming Sunday. Our administrative team had gotten together and tried to figure out what the time was. Everything that was on the Secretary of State site in Ohio was that the BOE was closed on Sunday. It said on Google that it was closed. We couldn't get anybody on the phone to clarify that it was closed. And so I was going to change the date. I stood in my pulpit on Sunday and said, well, you know what? We just going to change the date and we'll go on Wednesday during Bible study. We'll all just go together. When we gave the benediction, then one of our leaders called down here and said, I'm hanging on until I get somebody on the phone. Then someone else called, another leader. So we had 3 other people checking the information. And it turns out that it actually is open on Sunday, even though everything they put out on the internet, everything on their website, and the phone prompt said it wasn't. So if we didn't have someone checking information that was given, we wouldn't be able to go out. I know, Kim, that's how I felt. How do you close the board of elections in the longest general election cycle in American history? How do you close that? How does that even happen? But it's because there's misinformation that goes out, and we have to be willing to address that. We can't let that stuff slide, because if we do, we cut our feet out from under us.
And you're right, because I had someone notify me about that, and I'm like digging into like, what are you talking about? And I was like, wait, but this said earlier that it's open. So who changed the narrative and who changed the website and why? You know, so you got people causing fires at ballot boxes over here. You got people transferring, changing the websites over there. It's like, whoa. So we have to roll up. We have to roll up. So let me just share this as we're talking. Again, y'all, might as well give the list. Know before you go. Check your voting location. But Souls to the Polls is that main location in your area. Complete your sample ballot. Y'all cannot go in there with your phone while you're voting. You can't. I mean, you can have your phone, but have it printed out or know where you're doing it. Have your bottled water or 2. Have your sandwich, your chicken, your snack, your whatever, your protein bar. Have your sunglasses. Have your umbrella. Be prepared to stand. If you cannot stand, have a folding chair to sit in, not to be violent. Have your medication. Eat before you go. Have your inhaler. Have a book. Sing some hymns on Sunday. Wear comfortable shoes. I had someone yesterday who tunes in the News in Motion all the time. She sent me, I gotta read this text, but she sent me a text message and she said, I don't know why I didn't print out your list before I went. She said, and I quote, she said, I went today, this was yesterday, and did not expect so many folks to be there at 1:30 p.m. I had on, and she had highlights, the wrong shoes. She says, but I'm going back in the morning. I said, girl, where's my list? I told you to wear comfortable shoes. Y'all, we have to be prepared to stay. So can you speak to us, Pastor Holmes, especially to Black men, to Black America, to the Black communities, that we cannot expect to get in and out? And that we have to have patience, and we cannot become frustrated and walk away, and that we need to be prepared with our ID or address verification or whatever, and how to work through some of the politics that may come, and how to do everything we can before we lean to a provisional ballot. I know I gave you a whole lot there, but I know you're about to give us everything we need.
No, I appreciate that. And I think the answer is in what you said. Listen, when we talk about showing up to the polls, the truth is the enemies of democracy and those on the right side of democracy are all showing up at the polls. We're at a tipping point. And so not only should we and do we need to show up, but we also have to be clear about what actually happens there, right? Because again, voter suppression is real. There are people who are trying to keep us away from voting and exercising our constitutional right to vote. So we have to show up in a way to where we're willing to endure. We have to show up expecting that the lines will be longer. We have to show up knowing what we're going to vote for before we get to the poll, right? Make sure your sample ballot is squared away. You want to make sure if you're going to be waiting that you have yourself something to eat, right? You have to be willing to endure the things that happen when you go to a poll and people might be on the other side of where you might be voting. I don't live too far from the Board of Elections in where I live here in Ohio. And I've seen demonstrators out there. You're not even allowed to do that, right? So if you have people who aren't allowed to do a thing while people are voting, what does that mean? That means that police are there, right? So now it's a whole thing while people are going to vote, and we just have to be aware and conscious of that. But you said something about Black men, and I just really want to lift this just as we're talking about. I'm sure we're going to talk about it anyway. Not only should we be aware of all of that going to the polls, but we have to also be clear that the Black male vote, perhaps more than any other election in American history, is being vied for in this cycle. And I don't know if we're having enough conversation about that. I have seen and heard more things about Black men voting, about Black men going to the polls, about Black men not going to the polls. I know we're going to talk about some of that, but I just want to be clear that as we're framing the conversation around Black men, we should be clear that we absolutely have power, brothers, in that it must be the case, or else they wouldn't be talking to us. The fact that they're still saying, hey, are you going to vote? Hey, who are you voting for? Right? We have to be clear that in any other time in my memory, I can't think of a moment where Black men have been spoken to and our vote has been considered in this way. And the way that we respond to that is by showing up in a way that's powerful. We have to match that energy. And that part is actually fascinating.
So how can we help? And I know we were talking about Black men, but I really wanted to just talk about Black community. But I want you to preface to Black men as a Black man to Black men, because that's how we initially set this up today for our closing arguments. But how can we get beyond this misinformation in these final hours? Because I was sharing with News in Motion yesterday that I have people who are working. I shouldn't say I have people. I know people who are working in these early voting stations that are constantly blowing up my phone. Like, should this happen? Should this happen? This is happening. We heard this. We heard that. How do we get past all of this? There's a lot there. And I would love for you to unpack it for us and let us know how we have to also stand and support each other. You know, I'm saying, let's have a party. Remember last 2020, we had all those Donato pizzas that we had from Donato, and we were partying out there. We were having a party after church. So speak to that and the history behind that.
Right. So listen, there's something that happens beautifully in the Black community in that we show up with the best of our cultural identity when we're in places, right? It's often not a picnic when we do it. It's a cookout when we do it, right? It's not necessarily going to church. We have church, right? There's something about when we show up as our authentic selves that transforms one thing into something else. And specific to the poll, we have to be willing to do that. Listen, we have to be willing to show up, and maybe we got some vibes and some music playing, right? And maybe some food and whatever your favorite thing is to eat while you're there, right? And you wear your comfortable shoes, and comfortable and cute at the same time, right? You go ahead and do the things that you need to do so that way they're comfortable. I love that you mentioned singing hymns at the polls, right? There are things that we do specific to us that make it less cumbersome, right? As we are navigating it. And historically, what we've done is not allowed the difficulty to keep us from making a difference, right? Like we've always had to deal with the thing on our backs and the thing pushing down on us, but we were still able to press forward. And that's why I started the conversation around our fatigue, because we can be tired, but now is not the time to stop. We are almost there. And if this goes the way, at least that I want it to go, we are going to end up making history. We're going to be able to make a difference. We're going to be able to position ourselves as some real meaningful change in our community. We're going to be able to have needed conversations that come out of the election, because it's not just the person there, right? But it's also, now that you're here, now let's have the conversations that we need to have so that way our thing is better. I love that you're posting stuff around election protection as well, because some of that also has to inform how we show up. The polls close at 7:30. If you're at my time anyway, close at 7:30. If you're there at the poll at 7:30, you don't have to get out of the line. You stay there until you finish voting, right? You know what you have to bring with you in terms of identification. You know what you don't have to bring with you, right? There are all these different things that we just want to be aware of, so that way there's no way that we can be pushed away, because we are literally in a moment where every single vote counts. Oh, and last thing, and we need to make sure that we are bringing people with us. Don't isolate the function to ourselves. Go ahead and nudge that person that you know, come on, we need to go vote. Now, look, we can watch the game afterward, but we going to go vote. Now, look, I'll feed you, but hey, we going to go vote, right? Don't go by yourself. We have to go in community. That's the way we best mobilize our power, even in the face of opposition.
Yeah, I have, there's 5 of us in my family, myself and 4 of my siblings, and we've been in our group chat. So I chatted yesterday. I said, all right, my entire family has voted. First, I said, this household has voted, which is just the 2 of us. And I said, okay, the entire family, because my son and my daughter has also voted. And so now I'm getting ready to go down a list of all my nieces and nephews. Have you voted? I don't care if their parents have asked them. I'm asking the question. All my children's friends. Where's, that's what's it called? Vote tripling. Keeping it going, keeping it out there, making sure it's out there. The other thing, y'all, again, I got to share with you. Please speak to this as well, Pastor Holmes. You cannot take a selfie with the paper that came out the machine. That you can't do that. Take your selfie outside with your sticker. Can you please speak to that? Because people are like, and they're putting on TikTok. I'm like, that's illegal. You can't do that. Can you please speak to that, please?
on a platform as News in Motion, on a national platform, I want to be very clear that I acknowledge that it is illegal for someone to take a picture with the ticket that comes out of the ballot after you have gotten done voting. That being said, I also love how excited people get about exercising their constitutional right to vote. I want to be clear on the record. It is illegal to go ahead and take a picture with your ticket and then put it on TikTok. But that being said, it's something very dope to be excited about what you did. And if this goes the way that I want it to go, that picture is going to be worth some money. That video is going to be worth some money. So I'm not mad, but be clear. Don't celebrate your election by going to jail. Listen, rule number 1 is don't get locked up. Look, listen, rule number 1 is do not get locked up. It is illegal. Yes, it is illegal. I want to say this because Uncle Sam is listening. It is illegal to take a picture of your ticket while you're at the ballot, but it is pretty dope to be excited. And I'm not mad at anybody who wants to be on the right side of history. There, I'm back to being Pastor Holmes now. Amen.
I'm with you. I'm like so excited. I'm like, you can't do that.
That's gangster for real. That's hard. That's hard.
And people, and I'm telling people like, oh my God, what are you doing? But I think that's because we're not educated about the whole voting process. But it's like, you're right, it's dope. They're like, it's like, you can't.
Yeah, so I could make a strong argument for that being an act of resistance too. I want to be clear. Yes, it is illegal, but you also need to know that look, I'm not going to do it.
Oh gosh.
Let me sip my tea. It's illegal. You should not do that. You should not take a picture of your ticket. You should not do that. The law says that you cannot take a picture. Hey, but listen.
Take your picture outside with your sticker. Kim Edmonds is saying, do not go to jail.
Rule number 1 is do not go to jail. Listen, do not go to jail. You do not want that story.
Oh my, I was scrolling through TikTok and Instagram, and I can't tell you how many people are like, and they're like waiting for it to print out and they're taking pictures. It's like, you can't do that.
Right.
Look, the millennials are going to find a way to make this work, right? They're like, y'all done pulled me out my bed to go vote. I'm about to take. They're probably also taking a picture to tell their mama and them, look, I did. Stop calling
listen.
Oh God. But for real, y'all can't do that. Y'all cannot do
50 years. I'm with you, Kim. I love the excitement. Look, 50 years from now, if this goes the way that I want it to go, look, vote who you're going to vote for. But if this goes the way that I want it to go, I could imagine that ticket, which by the way is illegal, you should not do that. But I could imagine that picture of someone taking that ticket, the vote they cast, that would go up in somebody's museum.
Listen, and by the way, y'all, this is really water in here. It's not a mimosa or anything, but it is funny. It is funny. So, listen, Jackie says, take a picture
of your ballot.
Of your sticker, not your ballot.
Your sticker, not the ballot. Yeah. There you go.
Oh my gosh. But they don't know. They don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know. But I'm with you. I love the excitement. But I'm sitting there and I wish I could just reach out like, don't do that. I want to just be I want to be a poll watcher. They won't let me even come close to any of these things. They're probably because of what we do. But I want to be like, don't y'all do that. So I'm going to come up there on Sunday and be in the line with the young people. Don't do that. Or have a sign. Do not on your ballot.
But and we're saying it being funny. But listen, that's another thing that we do, right? Listen, I know we're talking about poll workers and we absolutely need those. So as you're able to serve, if you're able to, please do so, right? We need people to volunteer. But be clear, we need poll mamas and poll elders who know we have to get out of this thing. We're at a tipping point in our community. We have to get past judging people for what they don't know, right?
Yeah.
And we have to just be able to show up and say, nah, look, baby, you don't want to do that. Hey, listen, look, I'm excited too, but rule number one is don't go to jail, right? Like we have to be able to love on folk enough to stand with them. And part of the indictment for the generation behind us, from the generation behind us, is that y'all penalize us for what it is that we don't know, but y'all not teaching us what we need to know either.
What we need to know. I totally agree with you.
So I think that we need to listen. I think we should have poll elders. I can't wait. The historic Union Grove Baptist Church here in Columbus, Ohio, after our benediction, we'll be driving down to the Board of Elections and we're all going to vote together. I can't wait to vote with the church that I serve. Normally I vote on election day and just wait for the results. I have memories of going to vote with my grandparents and with my mom on the day of. I watched my mom vote for Black people on the ballot. That meant something to me as a child. I normally go on election day, but I'm going early. This will be my first time early voting, and I'm going because our church is going, and we're all going to do that together for those who haven't voted in Franklin County, right?
That's good.
I'm real clear that as we're going to go do that, right, there, it's not just going to be me and a bunch of other people in my demographic. It's going to be some of our elders there too, right? Listen, we have to be able to do this in community, and I think we can do this. That's the part that I get excited about. We can do this.
Yeah, it's interesting because I went early. I went the first day. It was October the 8th. Myself and David, we went together. We in another county, so we had to go to another county, which was quite interesting. But anyway, and it meant something to me to go early because I normally like to vote on election day as well, but I wanted to get this out the way. But in addition to that, that's why I'm making it a point on November the 5th to drive around to different locations that I'm aware of, just to really watch and see. Just, sit in my car, walk around, have conversation with people, not telling them how to vote, just that. And then when they're coming out, hopefully catching a few people with pictures and having a conversation. Maybe I'll do a few lives or something like that. Speaking of that, many of you may remember myself and Diane Ladybug in 2020. We were outside the Martin Luther King Center, and there was a young man. That video is still up on YouTube. There was a young man who they wouldn't let him vote. We started helping him. We sent him over to the Urban League to get the documents that he needed, the copies and stuff, have somebody fax him or whatever. And he ended up voting before he left. And his excitement. So we even having like a before and then an after in his excitement. So if we're there, the mamas, the papas, the aunties, the uncles, whatever, and we see somebody like frustrated or upset, ask them, did you get to vote? Is everything okay? Do you have any questions? And don't let them just leave. And so I'm pleading with everyone, don't just leave. Do not just leave. Find somebody and ask them a question. Hopefully you find somebody who's nonpartisan on that conversation. Because you can go to somebody and say, well, I'm a Democrat, and you end up with a GOP, they'll be like, oh no, you can't vote, going home. Or you're a GOP and you show up in front of a Democrat and they're like, oh no, going home. Make sure they're nonpartisan when they're having these conversations with you, because it should be about your civic engagement and your right to vote. So can you help us? I know we're running out of time, but can you help us how we should work through going up there, showing them our ID, and they give us this nod or this conversation like, you can't vote, or, well, we're just going to go ahead and give you a provisional ballot, which they do get counted, but afterwards. But when you really want to vote like everyone else, can you please speak to that? And then from there, if you would go into your inspirational message. I have loved this today. I've absolutely loved this today.
No, I loved it too. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. I think the way that we navigate that is that we have to show up, again, armed with information. You know that you need your ID when you're going to vote, right? You know that when you're in the line that no one can tell you to leave once you're there, right? So we do the work on the front end. This is the polling location where I'm at. When I go vote, and I've voted all of my adult life, I show up with the printout that says, based on where I live, this is my polling location. And by God's grace, I've never had to have an issue with that, but I show up just in case something else happens. Oh, no. According to this is where I'm supposed to vote. Check the timestamp. No, that was yesterday. This is where I'm at, and here's my ID. Now, if you would just move out of my way and go ahead and do what it is that I have to do. And in the event, right, that in fact, what you also want to do too, if you feel like there's confusion, if you've moved, right, and there might be an issue with your registration and the like, there's other things that you can bring with you that count as ID. You want to look those things up because they differ from state to state, but you want to look those things up so that way you have those. If there's that, just so there's no confusion, you want to do everything that you can be on the front side of a conversation. So that way a provisional ballot is a last resort, is like the last thing, because you've done everything you can to insulate yourself from it. I really believe that we're going to make a difference. I really do. And actually that kind of pours into where I'm at. And let me kind of share this and then we can go. Listen, consider the context of how long we've had to travel all of this. Remember, we had the whole thing where they were running and we didn't really love this person, didn't really love the other person. Then all of a sudden, in the best way of how a Black woman can do it, she shakes up the whole process, right? And now rejuvenates it, has all of this energy into it. And now because of that, there are all these other things that have had to be dealt with as we navigate going to the polls, as we're at the close of this. We've seen how this Black woman has been publicly excoriated, has been publicly disparaged. We've seen lewd pictures of her, Photoshop pictures, trying to minimize her and isolate her brilliance to her body. We've seen her being called on her record and saying that she locks up Black people when empirically that's not true. We've seen her being questioned around qualification, even though she is one of the most qualified candidates for president in the history of American politics. We've seen questions about her being a Black woman, right? Even though she refers to herself as a Black woman. Did you know that she wrote a whole autobiography about herself? And in that autobiography, she refers to herself as a Black woman and how her mother raised them to be strong Black women. Neither here nor there. We've spent time talking about the reality of sexism, where we've heard people say that I don't know if I'm willing to yield to someone who's in charge that happens to be a woman. I even heard folk in spiritual places try to use the Bible to justify that they shouldn't follow her. Someone tried to quote 1 Timothy 2 to me, that a woman shouldn't teach or have authority over a man. And I had to get them all the way together. Listen, we are now at the tail end of all of this conflict and all of this stress and all of the misinformation and all of the lies. And if you're like me, you can actually be a little tired while navigating it. You could start to wonder whether or not all of this is worth the work. And I wanted to share something with you. If by chance you haven't made it to Bible study, and if you find yourself with a little bit of time on your hands, you should go to the book of Habakkuk in the 3rd chapter and the 19th verse, where it says that the sovereign Lord is my strength and makes my feet like the feet of a deer and enables me to go on to heights. When you're reading that, you should be clear. The reason why it talks about deer feet is because deer feet operate different than anyone else's feet. Any other quadruped doesn't function in the same way that a deer does, in that the front feet of a deer are in place and then the back feet go where the front feet are. You missed your shout on the internet. Let me try it again. Listen, deer feet operate different than any other feet by any other quadruped that exists, because the front feet are in a place and then the back feet can go to where the front feet are after the front feet move. The reason why that's so important is because when something is climbing, when deer are climbing, it's easy to lose their footing, easy for them to fall. But because of the way their feet are set up, they don't lose their footing, even though they are in a difficult place. And what the Bible teaches us is that while we are in a difficult place, while we are on the steepness of this election cycle, while we are dealing with this difficulty, that in God, in the sovereignty of God working through us, we have strength to not lose our footing, and we can get to the higher places that God has for us. We should know that in God, we have the ability to get through this. And hear me, beloved, we gonna make it through this. We gonna be all right. We gonna get through this. We gonna push through this. We should be very clear that in God, we have the strength to make change, to move forward, and to go even higher than where we've been. So I know you're tired. I know you're frustrated. I know you're irritated. I know you're aggravated. I know you're agitated. But listen, now is not the time to give up. We have God on our side. We have the Holy Spirit on our side. We have righteousness on our side, and we will be made as the deer's feet. So that way, as we stand, we will not lose our footing, and we'll just keep on climbing. So go ahead and vote, and take somebody with you to vote. Take your whole community to vote, and make it a whole cookout when you vote, and know that God is there with you. And as God works, we'll go even higher than where we've been. I pray that you're well. I'll talk to you soon. Peace.
News in motion.